Welcome back to another episode of The Creatress of Freedom. Hello, hello. I am Annie. I am your host. Oh, I'm so excited to drop on in with you today. I'm going to try my best to keep this short and sweet, but oh my gosh, there's so much to share. So much to share. Um, so I want to share with you today about my recent trip that I just took to America. Like, oh my gosh, was it expensive? Fuck. Ah, so if you are new, hello, hello. I am so honored that you are here and tuning on in. If you're an OG, hey Queen, I see you. Thank you for jumping in again. Oh my gosh, it's so good to have you here once again. Oh, so if you followed my journey, you will have seen that I just spent just over 3 weeks in America, United States. It was my first real trip that I went to, but I did go to America in 2022, but it was for a mastermind event and it was only for 4 days and it was super quick, was like in and out. I literally didn't really see anything. It was in North Carolina, in Asheville, and we pretty much were in the house for the entire like 4 days of the retreat. And then I flew home. So that was on the end of my Costa Rica trip when I went and sat with ayahuasca in the jungles. And yeah, then I tagged on that part of the United States at the end of it. And then I flew back to Australia. So, I mean, I have been to America, but I wouldn't really say that I've been to America because I feel like that 4 days was like literally in and out and I didn't really get to see or experience anything. So I would say that this was my first actual trip to America. And so it was so much fun. Oh my gosh. So the main reason for this trip was because I was headed to uh, a event that my mentor was hosting called the Living Brave Live event. And so that was like one whole day and that was open to the public. But then she hosted um, a Vortex mastermind in person the day before. So it was 2 days, right? And so I ummed and ahed about, do I go all this way for like a 2 day event? It was like, it was a huge flight. It took me 3 flights to get there. So I ummed and ahed about it and I was like, it's a long way, like for 2 days. But I was like, I also know the power of being inside rooms as well, being inside rooms where you are with women that are like just dreaming as big as you and then mirroring back to you, no, dream bigger. Like I know the power of that and I know the expansion that can really come from that place. And so it was incredible. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited to share all of this with you. So that was the main reason for the trip. And I thought, I could just go for this trip or I could make it something of it, right? I had a beautiful girlfriend who lives in Austin, Texas. I actually have a lot of sisters that are, pardon me, that are based in the States. I have a lot of sisters that are based in the States, from just different containers that I've invested into, different mentorships that I've invested into, and they've been there, right? So I have women from all over the world. And so I knew that I would be able to catch up with some really beautiful sisters while I was over there. And so I ummed and ahed, do I make a bit of a trip out of this and like catch up with my friends? So I had a girlfriend in Austin, Texas, who also was visiting me like 2 weeks prior to that. So if you've been watching my stories, you will have seen Bree was here in Greece and she came for 2 weeks. We actually met a year ago prior to that. Like that needs to be a whole nother episode. I think I should get her on here and we can share about our story and our journey together. Because it's a really beautiful journey that we have experienced. When you just meet people for the first time and you're like, where the fuck have you been all my life? I feel like I know you from somewhere, but I just don't know where. And it's like, you just know that you've done lifetimes together. And that's very much how it feels with Brie. And Yeah, I'm so grateful to have her beautiful friendship. So yeah, she was here. She lives in Austin, Texas. And then I have another girlfriend who lives in California. And then I had another girlfriend that I was hoping to catch up with as well, who lived in South Dakota. But I just knew that with all the traveling that I was doing, I may not be able to get to South Dakota. And so the event for my mentor was in Denver, in Colorado. Now, I can't say that these places were really places that were ever really on my to-do list. Like, I'm definitely more of a beach kind of girl. Like my location, my destinations of places I want to go to usually require that there is some kind of beach. So these locations were not necessarily locations that I would potentially visit, but I thought, I could lean into this and, maybe there's some kind of medicine there for me. I always believe that everything happens for us, not to us. So we always can take what we want to take out of the situation. And so, yeah, I thought, you know what, maybe I'll try and make this work. And before I even booked anything, I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to make this work. Like, no idea whatsoever. And, I feel like this is actually a really beautiful strength of mine and a quality that I've been able to perfect, I suppose, or surrender to. And that is not trying to figure out the how, right? Like, so many people look at my life and they're like, how did you move from, I move all the time. From the age of 18, I'm constantly up and I'm moving and I get very bored with my environment, or not bored. I outgrow my environment very quickly because I'm constantly growing and evolving. And so my environment is really important to me and my growth. And after learning my human design type, I also know that once I've outgrown an environment, it's really important that I move on because it can actually ripple and impact every other area of my life. So I've learned to trust that now, and I've learned to trust that whatever is coming up for me, to just roll with it, right? And so a lot of people will often say to me, like, how did you pack up and move from, Bendigo, Victoria to Gippsland? Like that was my first kind of big move. And then from Gippsland, then I moved to Queensland. And then from Queensland, I moved to Greece, and so it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the expansion just keeps getting like huge. It's like crazy. And I'm just like, what's next? Like, what's next? Oh my God. And so a lot of people ask me, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you do it? And I don't actually know how I do it, to be honest. I see the vision. I tune into my heart. If my heart says yes, but there's fear there, that's okay, right? Like there's actually supposed to be fear there. You're not supposed to be like cruising through life with no fear, right? So I accept that there's going to be fear there, but I just always trust that if the vision is in me, it's for me, which is a beautiful quote that has come from a mentor of mine. And if it's what my heart says, then I'm never going to be off path ever. So I feel like my heart is my North Star, right? So as long as I know my vision and it feels good in my heart, I can never go wrong. And so as long as I follow that path, there's no issues, right? But I think the key is that we get so caught up in how am I going to make this happen? Like, I've got to have X, Y, Z. I've got to have this. I've got to do this. This has got to happen. This has got to happen. Like, and that's the logical mind, right? The logical mind wants to try and make sense of it. But when we stick in our logical mind, and this is something that I see happen with the women that I coach and also women out there as well, that the people that are living the big fucking lives are the women that don't play from their logical mind. They actually play with their illogical mind, the things that do not fucking make sense. They're the women that are living big ass lives. They're the women that are going all in on themselves. They're the ones that are investing in the money into different containers, pardon me, when it doesn't make sense, not when it makes sense. And so, like, I think this is like just a big principle that I live by. It's like, if it makes sense, then it's not going to be very expansive for me. If it doesn't make sense, then that's the perfect opportunity for me to lean into it and go for it and trust that the universe is going to respond to me, right? The universe responds to us, not the other way around. Too many of us are sitting and waiting and hoping that well, when I get XYZ, then I'll make the move. And it's like, no, you've got it backwards. You got to make the move and then the steps get shown to you, right? The path starts to plan out from there, but you're not taking the steps. And so because you're not taking the step, the universe is responding to you by not giving you the next level that you're asking for, because you're waiting for the next steps, right? So my advice to you is like, stop trying to make sense of it and just like say like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I've just trusted it will all work out. And honestly, like even now that I'm home from the States, you can probably hear the excitement that I have in my voice. Now that I'm home from the States, I'm like, how the fuck did I even make that happen? Like, oh my God, like I fucking did that. Like, you know, I don't have savings. I do not believe in savings, right? Like savings to me, because I'm all about really watching the words and watching the language that I use. And, you know, when you understand that there's vibration and frequencies to certain languages and certain words that you use, you will be very mindful of how you speak and how you live your life. And so instead of saying like, I can't make things happen, or, you know, oh, I don't have the money for that, or, you know, like I never buy into those stories ever. I'm always buying into like, how can I make this happen? You know, like I want this to happen and I trust that the universe is going to provide for me because it's going to respond to me taking the leap. And so I literally booked the flight. And I had an idea. It was really interesting because I actually wasn't going to book my flight home because I didn't know how long I wanted to actually stay in the States. And so I thought, you know, I don't want to be restricted, but the price difference was crazy. It was like if I booked a return flight versus booking a one way, I was literally saving myself like $1,000. And I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense. So I ended up extending my stay. Originally, I was going to come home straight after the event. Which that was going to be the last of my trip, but I ended up staying an extra week longer. So I ended up coming back on the 8th of September. And so, yeah, I just don't buy into I can't make this work. Like I trust that I can always make it work. And as long as I believe myself that I can make it work and I have my own back, then of course it's naturally going to work and it's going to fall into place. And it literally does. Like, even now that I'm home and I'm like reflecting on this expansive trip, I'm like, how the fuck did that even happen? Like I had flights in between my trip. I didn't book any of them until like 2 days before I was like jumping on the plane and going, because freedom is such a core value of mine and I don't like feeling locked into anything. So being able to just say, yeah, actually, I'm going to book a flight and I'm going to leave on this day, right? And that comes back to like why I don't have savings. I know I got off the beaten track there. I got so excited. But with the savings, right? I don't have savings, air quotation mark. And the reason that I don't have savings, air quotation mark, is because that to me feels like lack, right? That to me feels like I'm having to hold on to that money for something that's going to go wrong. And if the universe responds to me, well, then that shows the universe that I don't trust that money's always going to come freely and flow to me because I'm holding on to this savings, right? So I just let money build in my account and it fluctuates and it comes up and it comes down and it is what it is. And I know what I need to have set aside for my business expenses, but I don't have savings as such. And I will probably never have savings as such because I don't ever want myself to feel restricted. I don't ever want myself to feel like I'm coming from a lack mindset. I always want to feel abundant and I'm resourceful and I'm smart with my money and I don't need to have savings, air quotation marks, as an example, right? I'm able to trust that I can manage my money, right? I've been through multiple different scenarios throughout my entrepreneurial career. You know, like when I first started in mentorship, I had like $85,000 worth of debt and I got out of that. And then I ended up back in debt again from reinvesting into another mentorship container, right? And that's okay because I trust that I am smart and I trust that I can work it out. And, you know, I trust that I'm going to be able to make the money and pay off the debt, right? Like I just trust that I am so capable of that. So I don't hold any shame around any of those things. So I don't have savings as such. I just live abundantly, right? I trust that money will come in and money will go And the more that that flow keeps happening, and the more that I keep trusting and surrendering to that flow, that ebb and flow cycle, the more my nervous system gets to relax as well. The more relaxed I am, the more money flows into my life. Yeah. So when I was booking this trip, I was like, I have no fucking idea how I'm going to make this work, but I'm committing. And when I'm committing and I'm making the decision, then the universe is going to respond to me. And that's what happened. So I jumped on a plane and I went from Crete to Athens, Athens to Atlanta, and then Atlanta through to Austin. But that plane between Atlanta and Austin, I actually missed my flight. And, you know, that whole situation and scenario was just such a beautiful reflection on the growth that I've had, because, you know, traveling solo, oh my God, is it an expander? And does it really allow you to does it really allow you to learn how to trust yourself? When you travel solo and you're traveling like internationally, and you're traveling to foreign countries and to different places, you really have to learn to trust that you are capable of making this happen, right? You are so capable of it. And so every time I travel, it builds new levels of trust and confidence in myself, that I've got me, that I can do hard things, that, you know, even when things don't work out according to plan, it's okay. Like, everything is happening for me. And so I missed my flight by about 15 minutes. And I definitely tried. I spoke to security about seeing if I could get through, you know, an express lane. And they were so rude to me at the airport. The guy was like, do you not see everybody else lining up here? Everyone's got a connecting flight. You've just got to line up and suck it up. And I was like, okay, thanks for your help. And then, you know, in the security line, I was chatting with another chick and I said, like, my plane is boarding right now. And she was like, well, push through and go and get on the plane. And I was like, no, like, it's fine. Like, you know, the line was so big. And she's like, no, push through. So I was like, okay. So I started to push through. And before I even got to the front, there was a staff member that came over and like abused me and was yelling at me and was like, no, you do not do that here. You get back to where you came from. You're not going to be that person that pushes in front of all these people. And I said to him, you know, I'm not trying to push in. I said, it's just that my plane is boarding right now. And so I'm trying not to miss my plane. And he was like, I don't care about your plane. You get back to where you came from. That's where you're going to go. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, you know, that was a little bit rough, just even the way that he spoke to me. But I was like, okay, maybe he's had a bad day. Maybe he's had a rough day. I don't know, you know, but just really trying to see the best in people, right? So I shame walked myself back to my spot. Everyone was very apologetic and super sorry for the experience that I just had. And I was like, it is what it is. Like, I can't change anything. And then I had to get to the gate, and the gate was already gone, right? The plane was already gone. And I just was like, well, it is what it is. Like, you know, and I sat and I was reflecting while I was waiting for my turn to be called up to the desk to resort out my next flight. And I thought, fuck, I've had some growth. And I celebrated that, because a past version of me would have probably had a full-on meltdown and just bawled my eyes out and be like, oh my God, why did this happen to me? Like, this is so bad. I can't believe that this is happening. Like, what am I going to do now? I've never had this happen before. And, you know, just go down that like spiral of drama. And, you know, I just sat there and I was like, it is what it is. Like, I'm okay. I'm safe. You know, I looked it up and there was another flight that was going out to Austin that night. So I'm like, great. Well, hopefully there's going to be a space on it. I won't have to book accommodation for the night here. You know, I think it will all be okay. And my bag had gone on the previous plane as well. So I had no luggage with me. So even if I had to stay the night, I wouldn't have had anything with me at all. But I just had it is what it is, you know, like, and I just was so proud of myself for just trusting in the flow of life. And, you know, I clearly wasn't meant to be on that plane for a reason. I don't know what the reason was. And sometimes we don't need to know what the reason was, but I just trust that, you know, the universe had my back. And I got on a plane later on, a few hours later, and I landed in Austin at like 1:30 a.m. My beautiful friend was there to pick me up from the airport. And it was so beautiful. Yeah. And then we had this beautiful expansive time together in Austin. And, you know, everyone says to me like, what was Austin like? And I always say, I feel like Austin was like, you opened a comic book and it popped out and came to life. That's my impression of what Austin is. It's like it's very comicable. It's there's like neon signs everywhere. There's big cowboy boots that are like, big monuments, and there's lots of like different art and stuff like that around. It honestly feels very much like yeah, like a comic book has opened and it's come to life. That's the best way that I can describe what Austin was like. And, I had such a beautiful experience in Austin with my beautiful friend. She really showed me what her life is like at that in Austin. We were both still working, and we had limited time to explore too much, but we definitely made it work for what we had available to us. And we, went out for dinner and, ate out and went for walks and, checked out different parts of it. And it was so beautiful to have that sister time with her. And, I really am missing that deep sisterhood connection, and I don't have that here in Greece. And yeah, definitely like kind of opens my eyes up, and feeling into the energies of the different places that I visited versus the place here in Greece. I could definitely see that Greece holds a lot of feminine energy. And this was a big reflection that I had just from Austin, that Greece holds a lot of feminine energy. And I feel like, Austin, for example, holds a lot of masculine energy. And so I could witness myself being like my being different in both places. And I could see like Greece is so magical, but because it's so feminine, I find that I'm very like go with the flow, and like I want to get out into nature and I want to get into the ocean. And so sometimes that impacts my ability to grow my business because it's so feminine. But then when I was in Austin, like I definitely really felt like the masculine energy there, and I felt like I was a lot more productive there. And so my mind was blown, because I was like, I think I want to break my year up. I think I want to spend different parts of the year in different parts of the country. And I was like, whoa, fuck, this feels expensive. Like, this is crazy. Didn't see this coming. And, it's really interesting because I remember having a conversation with my cousin back in Australia before I left to go to Greece. And I said to her, I'm a bit worried. And she's like, what are you worried about? And I said, I'm worried, like, what if I get to Greece and I want more? Like, what if I want more? It's so funny. Like, now when I look back, I'm like, my intuition knew. My intuition was all over it. Like, why I chose to ignore that little part of her back then, I don't know. But anyway, I see it now. And she was like, don't be silly. Like, it's Greece. How can you want more than Greece? And I was like, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. How could I want more than Greece? Like, that's like the pinnacle, isn't it? And then when I went to the States, and did that trip, I like have come home and I'm like, holy shit, this is the more, right? This is the more. It's like, yes, I get to live this big, expansive life, and it puts this whole new definition of like, we create our own life. And I was sharing it with one of my clients the other day, and she was asking me about how my trip was. And I said, oh my God, it was so expansive. And I said to her, I think I'm going to break up my year and I'm going to spend my year in different parts of the world. And I just kind of kept talking, and she was like, hold on. Can we back up here? And I was like, what? And she's like, can we back up to what you just said? Like, do you realize what you just said? And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, you just said that you're going to break up your year and spend it in different parts of the world. Do you realize how fucking cool that is? And I was like, yeah, actually it is. She's like, that's so epic, Annie. And she's been with me since 2021. So she's been on my journey of going through my heartbreak, of like just moving to Queensland and then traveling and doing all of this and now moving here. So she's been on this entire journey, and she's like, Annie, like, she's like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, oh my God, I love my clients so much. Like, that we have this beautiful relationship where we just share so much love together. And I was like, yes, like, that is pretty cool, isn't it? And she's like, fuck yes. Like, she's like, you're literally creating your life. And I was like, yes, I am. You're right. Like, this is crazy. And I was like, this really does put this new emphasis on like a new definition of You get to create the life that you want to live. Like, holy fuck. Like, I knew that, but oh my God, am I embodying that at a whole new level now of like, yeah, I think I'll keep my house. I'll be maybe in the summer for Greece and just enjoy the beautiful Greek goddess lifestyle. And then I think for other parts of the year, I want to be somewhere else. And I don't know where that is yet. I'm still waiting for that to come through, but I just already feel like my mind has been so blown by this, like that we get to create this life literally any way that we want to. And like that's a little scary, and it's a little mind blowing, and it's also like exciting, and it's like, oh my God, like the world really is your oyster. You know, people say that sentence, but do people really understand what that sentence means? And I don't think they do. And I don't think I did either until like right now in this moment that I'm like sharing these reflections with you, where I was like, wow, how fucking cool is that? Like, we literally can create a life however you want it to be. And as long as you stop worrying about what the judgment is of everybody else and you just tune into your heart and say, what is my heart telling me? Like, the world really is your oyster. You honestly can create your own life in any shape, form, way, desire that you really want to. And that's really fucking cool. So that was like my biggest takeaway from my trip. There were some other things that I also did. I flew from Austin to California, and I went to Alcatraz. And Alcatraz that was a really unique energy spot. Actually, my friend that I went with, she actually had a physical reaction to walking in and around, which was really interesting to witness. I mean, you could definitely feel it, but she was having a physical reaction of like nearly wanting to throw up, because the energy in there it's pretty dense. And that blew my mind, because I really thought that the people that went to Alcatraz, like in my mind, I had this opinion and this idea that they were really, really bad people, right? Like they were like pedophiles, or they were, multiple serial killers, but really, like some of the crimes that were committed, I was like, I don't know if it really warranted them being in jail for. And, there was a common theme as well throughout every person that pretty much was in Alcatraz. And that theme was they all had childhood trauma. They all were either like adopted out, they had like family violence at a young age. Like there was something that was happening from a very early age that has resulted in the way that their adult life has become. And Jess and my friend, we were actually chatting about this, on once we left, and she's worked in prisons, and she's a therapist as well. And we were saying how, a lot has not really changed since then. Like, I can't remember the exact dates. I think Alcatraz closed down in, maybe it was at 1960 or something like that. And the reason that they closed it down is because they said nothing good come out of it, right? They were like, nothing good come out of Alcatraz, so they closed it. And but yet, how many ever years later, we are still doing the same thing. Like our system still does not allow for growth. It doesn't actually get to the root cause as to why these people are ending up in jail. And when they're in jail, they're not treated like human beings. Like yes, they've done wrong things according to society, but what if we actually went back to the root and actually helped these people? And so, Jess and I were reflecting on this, saying like, yes, they closed Alcatraz because nothing good come from it, but the truth is that they didn't really change the system either. The system stayed exactly the same. The system has not improved. It still operates very much the same. And jail is not always to the benefit of the human, right? Like it's not really teaching them anything, and that's why they get out and they end up back in, because they don't know how to live in society. So yeah, that was really interesting, like going through that experience. And I actually feel called to go back there. I definitely would love to go back and kind of maybe be a bit more on the outskirts and not necessarily in the jail cells area, which you're allowed to walk in and around all of it. We did an audio tour. But yeah, I think I would like to go back and experience it differently. Maybe, yeah, do some surroundings around the outside and the gardens and just see what the energy feels like in different parts of the island. So that was really cool. So that was in San Francisco. And then what else happened in San Francisco? And then we have also they have driverless cars in San Francisco, and I was so keen to get in a driverless car, but my girlfriend was like, "Hell no! Anything that I have to sign a waiver form for, that's a hell no for me." And I was like, "No, I'm just so curious. Like, how do they work? Like, I just was so fascinated. There's no driver in these cars, and they operate based on satellite, and so they're essentially like an Uber, but there's no driver in them, and it was mind blowing. So yeah, so that was really cool to witness that, and then just walked the streets of San Francisco, and so that was fun. And had a little wander around, and went to the Gardelli chocolate factory as well. So I brought home some chocolate, and that was amazing. And yeah, and then I also did an incredible photo shoot as well in California. So if you haven't been to my stories on my feed in Instagram or Facebook, you will see that I did a photo shoot there with about 13 other women in the Redwoods. And that was phenomenal. That was so incredible. We were asked to dress up as a goddess that we wanted to embody more of. And so I decided to dress up as Aphrodite, which is a Greek goddess, and she's all about sensual fertility, play, like all of that, like really tapping into the divine feminine. And I really wanted to embody more of that because, as you know, if you've listened to previous episodes, I have been celibate for over 12 months now. And oh my gosh, that's been such a beautiful journey of being able to really connect with my body in different ways and learn to build the trust in my own body and learn to find pleasure in my own body on my own without having someone else come into that space. And so really like tapping into this next level of sensuality within myself was so delicious. And Jess had a friend who literally had like an entire wardrobe of play costumes and stuff. And so she decked me out from my crown to my earrings to my beautiful see-through dress. And like it was a bit of an edge for me to, know that I was rocking up in with a group of women with a very, very see-through dress. And you could see my breasts and, I just had a G-string on, but it was very revealing. But it was a new level that I was stepping into, and I 100% was stepping into this next level of embodiment in myself. And oh my God, was it liberating to be witnessed by these women and dancing and singing and howling up into the sky and just being in the redwoods. The redwoods is incredible energy in that space. I actually would love to go back and spend some more time there because it's a magical place to be. And if you ever get the call, I highly recommend that you go and check out the redwoods. I think that they go for quite a fair distance across California, but I started it in Oakland. And so that was just so much fun to play dress up and get ready together and then like get in the car and like head to this. And then we sat in a beautiful women's circle and, we really allowed each other to witness each other and shared reflections back of each other. And it was so beautiful. And then we got to, if you wanted to, go off and have a private photo shoot for 5 minutes. And that was just so magical. And I'm truly grateful that I got to have that experience because photo shoots are not just photo shoots, they're activations. They activate something within you, and then you look back at them and you mirror that woman that's staring at you in that photo, and it activates new levels within yourself. And so that was really magical. So if you've not seen those photos, I shared them on my feed. Go and have a look at them. They're truly beautiful. They're so, so beautiful. And something definitely was activated within me for sure from that trip. So I was only in California for a very quick, 5 days. We also went to Santa Cruz. The weather wasn't great in Santa Cruz, but there was a theme park there, which I didn't know about, and I would have totally been down to do the theme park, but we just didn't have the time to add that in. But that was a fun road trip. Went for a road trip down to Santa Cruz and walked around. And again, Santa Cruz kind of felt a little bit comical as well, not as much as what Austin did, but it was also really, really amazing. And I really enjoyed, Santa Cruz. It's right on the water as well, so it was nice to be back close to the water, but the water was freezing. Oh my gosh, it was so cold. I wanted to get in, but I did not. It was like ice. And the locals were in full body wetsuits, and this was in summertime. And apparently, that is normal and very common for the California waters. And I'm like, not for me, not for me. So that was heaps of fun. And then from there, then I flew into Denver. But the other reason that I went to California was before I left Australia, I sent a whole heap of books and my Oracle decks over to Jess in California because I didn't have a home in Greece at that stage. And so I sent all of that over to her, and I collected that. So I'm super excited to say that I have a suitcase that is full, and I have brought home here to Greece all of my Oracle cards and my beautiful books as well. So I'm super excited to have them here with me. I've really only been working with one or two decks, and if you've been following my journey for a while, you know that I love an Oracle deck and I work with them quite a lot. So being able to have access to all of my other decks, I'm really, really excited by that as well. So then from there, it was on to California, and California was like a whole, I mean, sorry, not California, Colorado was a whole nother level. And honestly, I think that that needs to be a whole episode on its own because there was so much wisdom that came from not only just catching up with my friend at the end, my beautiful sister, Kristen, at the end of the trip, but also all of the events that happened at LBL as well. So, oh, honestly, like life changing trip. You know, anytime I do anything like that, I'm so proud of myself for not knowing how it was going to work or how I was going to figure it out. But, you know, I just go all in on myself, and I just trust, and I trust that I have the capability to pull anything off. I have to go first, and then the universe will respond to me. So that's your reminder that if you're sitting on the edge of something, or something you want to do, and you keep putting it off, and you keep waiting for the right time or the right money in your bank account or the right thing, like if you keep finding this excuse, just wipe those excuses and just fucking go for it. Just send it, girl. Send it. Because once you start to send it and you make that decision and you make that declaration to yourself that this is happening no matter what, it will just fall into place. Like it will just fall into place. And I'm living proof of that with every fucking big milestone that I have achieved in my life. I am living proof that when you choose and you declare this is what's happening, and you just take that first action step, everything else will fall into place straight after that. So that's your reminder. I hope that you have enjoyed hearing bits and pieces of my trip. It was honestly so expansive. There was so many other things to share, but I wanted to keep this short and sweet today. I love you. Thank you for being here. If you have been to any of those places or you got a takeaway from this episode, I would love to hear from you. Come and let me know on the DMs, either Facebook or Instagram or emails, whatever feels good. And then if you feel called to work together and create this beautiful, epic life like I have, then you can head to the show notes and have a look. There's also something new that's upcoming as well. I haven't, depending on when you're listening to this episode, will depend on whether I've launched it or not, but I have a new high touch mastermind that is coming out. It's called the 1%ers. And if that feels like something that you want to be a part of, it is open for any entrepreneurial that is desiring to really step into that next level of their life, their business, that next level of freedom. It's called the 1%ers because there is only 1% of the world that do the inner work, and it's usually the black sheeps of the family. So if that's you, then let me know. We don't have applications or anything for that just yet, but if that feels like something you want to be a part of, then come and shoot me a DM and let's have a conversation about it. We are going to kick it off in December. So we're going to get that momentum ready before the new year rolls in. And it'll be a 6-month container, and it is for only 5 women. So super high touch. It's going to be fucking incredible. I'm going to share with you all my tips and strategies and tools to really start to tap into being the creatress of freedom in your life, in your business, in your relationships, with your friendships, every area. That's all I'm going to share with you for today. If there's anything else that you are interested in, working together with, come and shoot me a DM. Otherwise, have a look in the show notes, and there might be something there that feels like it feels like it's in alignment. All right, babes, have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.